let's go to Rochdale and the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, this morning. And it is a big day for you, Miss Alexander, today. I bet you're bursting to get this news out.
Good morning, Eamon. Yeah, well, it's a really big and important day because as part of the Labour government's plan for change, we're announcing today the largest ever investment in local transport projects in our towns and cities outside of London. We know that our great cities, places like Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Newcastle, Birmingham, Bristol, for too long have had an underfunding when it comes to public transport. So we're investing £15 billion over 5 years to improve buses, to invest in things like tram extensions, new tram stops, better rail services locally for people. And this is actually going to transform the day-to-day experiences of people travelling around, because we know how critical a good public transport system is for people to access employment, get to essential public services, be those education, healthcare, just even travelling to see friends and family and enjoy leisure trips. And so we're putting our money where our mouth is. It's going to make a real difference in places.
Here's the question. Where does the money come from? You keep telling us you're broke. We're broke as a country. Where are you going to get the money for all of this?
So we have taken necessary decisions over the last year to make sure that we stabilise the economy so that we can make these long-term investments in public transport. And so that's why what we're enabling is people like Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester to be able to fully electrify the B network, which is the buses and trams, by 2030, new tram stops in places like Oldham, Bury, North Manchester. If you look at Liverpool, what Mayor Steve Rotherham wants to do is introduce new bus rapid transit routes to Liverpool John Lennon Airport, to the new Everton Stadium, to Anfield. That's £100 million investment in Liverpool. Go across to the other side of the country in the northeast, where there's going to be an extension of the Tyne and Wear tram down to Washington, connecting fantastic cities like Newcastle and Sunderland. And this is only possible because we have stuck to those fiscal rules that the Chancellor set out. We've brought stability back to the economy, and this is about what delivering change looks like, because we want people to be able to access those good jobs. The next generation of young people growing up in Bradford being able to jump on a bus or a tram and get into those excellent jobs in Leeds. This is all part of the plan. And so, unlike previous governments who, made fantasy promises and never actually delivered, we're getting on with the hard work. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're giving the ability back to mayors in our great cities to deliver the transport system that people want and people deserve.
OK, can I ask you about defence? Because the Prime Minister unveiled the Strategic Defence Review on Monday, which already looks to be out of date, because NATO is now demanding that we spend 3.5% on GDP on defence. We haven't even fully committed to 3%. So how is this going to be funded? Are we going to see tax rises?
So what the government has clearly laid out is the way in which we are going to get to spending 2.5% of our GDP on defence by 2027, and we have that clear ambition to get to 3% in the next Parliament when the fiscal circumstances allow. I think this is critical to make sure that we are putting the security of the British people first. We know that we are living in a more unstable world. Of course, what we will be doing through that as well is unlocking good jobs in the defence industry and improving the industrial base. We are, after the US and Germany, one of the largest contributors to NATO, and we will always keep under review what resources are needed, but the first duty of any government is to protect the British people, and that's precisely what this government is doing. It wasn't the last Conservative government that explained how we would get to 2.5% of GDP. It was the Labour government. We committed to doing that in our manifesto that we stood on at the last election, and that's precisely what we will be doing by 2027.
Well, you could argue that now we're in a very different world, aren't we? But I'm glad you've said that defence is a priority. But if defence is a priority, then surely we need to make our borders secure. And we saw 1,200 people cross on Saturday. That's a record for any given day. And there's Home Office data out today showing that when the Rwanda scheme first entered law, the numbers were coming down. So it was working as an effective deterrent, and you've scrapped it. Do you regret that now?
I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't accept that at all about the
This is Home
Rwanda
Office
scheme.
data.
The truth of the matter is, we spent £700 million. There wasn't a deportation flight that took off from the UK,
but the
and I
threat
think there
was
were
clearly
4
enough,
volunteers.
wasn't it? Because
And
the numbers were coming down.
If the previous Conservative government had been so confident that the Rwanda scheme was going to work and it would act as an effective deterrent, why did Rishi Sunak call an early general election last year? We're taking this issue very seriously. We're setting up we're giving the new counter-terrorism powers to the new Border Security Command. That's legislation that is going through Parliament. We've done a deal with France so that French authorities can actually take action and intervene when individuals are in boats in the water. That's a new agreement. We are determined to interrupt these international networks, criminal gangs that are facilitating and enabling the people who are coming across in boats across the channel.
But that isn't working, is
so
it? You're
the
not
security
smashing
of the British people is our number one priority. Whether that's sorry, I can't. The line's really bad, and I actually it's very difficult to hear the questions. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. You're not currently smashing the gangs, are you? When we're looking at 50,000 people potentially crossing this year, these are record numbers.
Well, we've never said it would be easy. That's why we have set up the new Border Security Command. It's why we are giving the new Border Security Command those counter-terrorism style powers. And let's not forget that the Conservatives and Reform MPs voted against those new powers in the House of Commons. So if you want to talk about a party that is taking this issue seriously, we are. Let's also not forget that since the general election, we have removed or deported 30,000 people
Heidi
from this
Alexander,
country
I'm afraid we're
who have
reaching
no
the top
right
of the
to
hour.
be
We
here.
are out of
That's a
time with you.
significant increase on what the previous government did.
And Claire, let's have a look at the Daily Mail, shall we? It's our lead story today. The Rwanda plan did deter small boats.
Yeah, well, are we shocked that the Daily Mail would lead with that, given that everything else that's going on with defence, etc., etc.? But they do have a point, because unless we do change things in our defence, I would say my starting point would be we need to defend our borders. And if we don't defend them, what do we have left to defend? And with a diminishing birth rate...
What's the point of being in government?
Exactly. You know? And it would suggest that we have commented in the past that it's my belief that people are coming here sold on the swan song of this being the land of milk and honey and plenty. And that is the message that's been sent to the camps, both in France and Italy and everywhere else. They're told, go to Britain. El Dorado was even mentioned. That's what you're going to get there. So it would seem from the data that the Home Office have actually collected and Border Force that after Rwanda was scrapped, then there was indeed a greater influx and a greater amount of predominantly young men, no women, no children, coming over via the boats. And I think it's ridiculous.
Well, I think it's ridiculous. Everybody thinks it's ridiculous, but nobody's doing anything about it.
Well, we're going to have to do something about it. I think there needs to be a cross-table, all-party discussion on how to deal with this. And when he goes to The Hague, I mean Starmer, the robot, when he goes to The Hague to discuss the defence, this needs to be on the table. And he needs to get Macron by the jacket and say, look, we are paying you and your guys to defend our borders, both yours and mine, and you're not up to the task. You're not doing your job. Some accountability, please.
And what do you make of the government blaming the good weather for the rise in record migrant arrivals, like what we saw on Saturday? Is it down to the weather, or is it down to the sophistication and the demand for these gangs?
Well, the weather really only decides when people are going to make the journey. So it might make it look as if, OK, some days are worse than others. We saw this record 1,200 migrants arrive on Saturday, the highest level, the first time it's gone over 1,000 in 5 years. But that doesn't change the fundamental problem, the fundamental problem that people want to come here, and when they arrive here, they will not be removed. They will be put in a hotel.
Yeah, but good weather just opens the sluice gates, doesn't it?
Exactly.
You're sitting waiting on the beaches and it's ready, steady, go. Off you go now. It's a good day today.
And one irony is that, of course, one of this government's messages has been to smash the gangs. Actually, if anything, we've seen the gangs become more sophisticated, more professionalised. And that is also one of the factors that is leading to an increase in small boats arrivals.
OK. Fraser, thanks very much indeed. We'll hear from you again later in the programme. Thank you.